All right. Let's get into the conversation
Mm,
today. Again, last week, SEC Media Days, myself, Mike G, present for the action.
yeah.
As in every media days, those of us who are privileged enough to attend as parts of the media get a vote in the preseason poll. The media does a poll on a lot of things, like preseason all SEC teams. But today we are going to focus on the predicted order of finish that came out from SEC Media Days. And in the spirit of transparency,
Yeah. We voted.
we voted
We
and
voted.
we are going to share with you our ballots today.
Yes. Yes, we are.
This
We're
is
going to
not
do that.
something a lot of people are willing to do, put their name on it and say, this is what I
This
said,
is what I
and this
said.
is
This is what
how
I
I
thought.
voted. But we're going to put our names on it today so you all can see how we placed our votes during SEC Media Days. So I am fully prepared for people to tell me how much I don't know ball um and all of the things that usually come out of an opinion that is
Yes.
placed
Hey,
on
hey,
something.
hey.
I'm fully prepared for all of those things, and I'm prepared to defend the choices that I made. So, without further ado, we're going to first take a look at Ike Jones and his media ballot for SEC Media Days. Mike G, go ahead and drop it on the people.
All right. So, guys, like I said, we voted. This is how Ike Jones voted media days. Listen, Ike was sharp too. Listen, man, this man was GQ'd up for media days. All I had was polos and hoodies for y'all, but Ike came through with the GQ fashion, and he voted in GQ manner, starting with
Yes.
Georgia at number one. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Yeah. I think I would wager that 80% of the ballots probably had Georgia at number one.
Right? Yeah, yeah. So,
Don't know that for sure, but I think that that's a safe bet.
your number two is curious here. I'm interested to hear from you here on Ole Miss. Why Ole Miss number two?
Yes. Ole
Oh,
Miss. You want to know why now?
yeah, 100%.
All
Yeah.
right, let's get into it. I'll put myself back on camera so we can talk about this. Ole Miss at number two. I actually think that this is a super talented Ole Miss team. Um, Offensively and defensively. There just aren't any places that I look at that roster and say to myself, "Oh, I'm not really sure about Ole Miss right there." Like they look like they have a good defensive front. They've been good offensively traditionally. I don't see any reason why that's going to change. So if you get an improved defense with already a good offense, I think this is a year in which Ole Miss can finish in the top two in the SEC.
A question for you. So, does no Saban have anything to do with why you're voting Ole Miss here? Like,
I mean, no divisions definitely does, right? Like
okay,
they're,
all right.
if they had to win the West to get to Atlanta, I would feel a little bit less prone to probably go that direction, but they don't. And yeah, them even playing Alabama, they don't have to face Nick Saban. I think Lane Kiffin can potentially, get that win in that scenario. So yeah, Ole Miss at number two, I don't think is a crazy thought. I just think that offensively they're going to be good, and I think they'll be better defensively this season than they were last year,
Mm,
which will allow them to get it up there.
this, I think I'm high on Ole Miss, so I don't hate it. Ole Miss over Texas is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, and we can
Over
go
a
back
playoff
here.
contender that returns
Yeah,
their QB and
I,
like,
I
yeah,
had Texas at number three.
yeah.
The only reason why Texas is below Ole Miss on my ballot, as I'm looking at it right now, is I'm not convinced right now, based on what I know, how good Texas is going to be on the defensive front this season. They lost a lot last year in the guys that played the vast majority of their snaps. And so I just don't know. I don't know what I don't know about them. I've seen the guys that Ole Miss brought in from the portal play well up front already. So I just think defensive front is where I give the edge to Ole Miss right now, and that's the reason why I have them at three rather than two.
Okay. All right. I feel it. It's oh, Lane Kiffin has a great opportunity. Kind of going back to media days, Ike. His father passed,
Hmm.
on the Friday before. And so there was some question about whether he would actually be there. But he showed up. I thought that Greg Sankey handled that with an amazing amount of grace. When he came to the stage, he said, look, we all know what happened. Let's not take the focus off the players. Let's keep it on the players. And so he's going to make a statement about his father, obviously the great Monty Kiffin, and we're going to move on from it. So I thought that they handled that really well. Now getting to the team, I got a chance to ask him a question, I think the first question, when he came to the stage about the development of Jackson Dart. And he said that if the new NCAA game had a leadership rating, Jackson Dart would be a 99. And I think that's high praise coming from Lane Kiffin, because he is a true QB guru. True one. Now, remember, last year, their only losses were to Alabama and Georgia. They won their bowl game. They had a really, really good Tulane win on the front end of the season. It ended up, I don't think anybody saw it as a quality win, but by the end of the season, that was a quality win. And they played everybody tough last year. Ole Miss might be formidable, and I don't see a world where they don't make a 12-team playoff. So I'm not, like I said, I didn't have them as high as number 2 right now, but I don't hate it. I like that. Texas, it is what it is with them. Quinn Ewers. We'll see how they do in the SEC.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I still don't put a QB guru title on Lane Kiffin. I think he's good at offense. I don't know how great he is at quarterback development, but he runs his offense to perfection.
He does.
I have those other guys at number 4 begrudgingly. I just don't think that they lost enough, and despite what I feel about the departure of Nick Saban and what it would do to the program in the long term, I just think in the short term they're still talented enough with a good head coach who he just coaches football well that they'll remain in the top 5 in the SEC. Tennessee is next up here at number 5 for me. I just think, again, offensively, Tennessee, Josh Heupel, they're going to be doing some things.
Mm-hmm.
Nico is still a question mark. Like, I don't know how good he is yet. And so I could be convinced that Tennessee would finish lower than this. But I am giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because of who the head coach is there, that they will continue to do well and stay near the top of the conference this season. Texas A&M at number 6 here. I believe Mike Elko is a really good defensive coach and will continue the defensive prowess that Texas A&M had the previous season. And I believe in the offensive talent that they have that will allow them to be up here. This is another team. Once I got past 4, it started to get really muddy for me. And I could interchange a couple of these schools really from 4 till about 10. I could say I could see them finishing in a different place than where they are right now. Really 11, right? Like, I just think that there's a tier right there from about 5 to 11 where I don't know, but I had to rank them some sort of way.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have Texas A&M lower on this list.
No, I believe in Mike Elko as a coach, and I don't think that they lost enough talent for me to think that defense won't be good again this year. And if their quarterback stays healthy, I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So that's why I have them where I have them.
LSU at 10, though.
Yeah, we'll get there. Auburn at 7 here.
Yes. Okay. This is where we're going to spend our time.
Yeah. Auburn at 7. This is me being a little optimistic about the finish for the team there at number 7. I think that there are, again, there are teams right there in that middle of the pack that I can see going lower, see going higher. I kind of put Auburn right in the middle of where I think that they could potentially be, as opposed to taking the worst of where I think it could be or the best of where I think it could be. I put them right in the middle. And I think that if you get to 8 wins, then I think that you have an opportunity to be a top 10 team in the league this year. And so that's kind of where I was like, 8 wins is me being on the more optimistic side of where the schedule could rule out. I mean, how the schedule could turn out, excuse me. And so that's where Auburn lands at 7 for me.
Okay. All right. Let's go back here.
Next up is Oklahoma. I just think Oklahoma's schedule is really tough.
It's tough. It's the toughest they've seen in a century.
Yeah. And I'm not as high on their offensive prospects going into the SEC week in and week out. Their defense being good this year, I think, is going to be a saving grace for Oklahoma and will allow them to stay in a bunch of games. So I think that they'll be able to produce enough defense to keep them here in this top half of the conference.
Mm.
But still, it's another one of those things, the question mark about the young QB, where, and then me talking to people who are Oklahoma folks this week, right, and hearing their thoughts on their team,
Okay.
is kind of what helped me to make this decision about where I landed them. Kentucky at number 9 is really just, I didn't know where else to put Kentucky. I want to be
They'll
honest.
they'll start the season inside the top 25, just inside the top 25. So
For
at
sure.
9, I mean, it's not a crazy pick, but I think that this kind of highlights how hyper competitive the SEC is going to be this year, right? Like you put a top 25 team as 9th in the SEC, right? Now this is their predicted order of finish. So, this is where we think they'll finish, which means, if you're 9th in the SEC, I don't know that you're a top 25 team at the end of the season. But that probably makes them a 7-win team, right?
Right.
At best.
Yeah, I would think so. LSU, I'm not convinced that defense got any better, could potentially be worse. And they don't have the offense, I believe, without Jaden Daniels this year to be able to save them from the poor defense. And so that's the reason why I have LSU so low on this list at number 10. Missouri, this probably is the most controversial, I guess, because I think Missouri's going to be worse defensively this year. I just do. And them, again, similarly to LSU, when you don't have a good defense in this conference, I just don't know how you win a lot of games, unless you're going to have a Jaden Daniels-esque performance from someone on your offense. And as much as I believe that they have a good quarterback, I don't think that he's elite in that way to be able to rescue them from a defense that I think takes a step back this year. And so I'm not believing in them to that degree to put them in the top half of the conference this season.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, Brian Kelly said during media days that he felt like this LSU team was his deepest team. That's what he said. Now, in talking to LSU fans and, those who cover LSU, my guy Bryce Kuhn over at 247, go check him out. He does a great job covering them. Reviews are mixed on Nussmeier. And I don't know that anybody wants to follow up a historic Heisman season. Guy has 50 touchdowns, 4,000 passing yards, second in the SEC in rushing. Jaden Daniels put on an absolute clinic on offense last year. And if they had an average defense, they would have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they didn't make it. And so, again, I just think given how good they were offensively, and there are a lot of questions now, they hired a new defensive coordinator, and there's a lot of optimism about his scheme improving them greatly. But I still think they got a lot of problems on defense that I don't know is going to be solved in 1 year. So we'll be watching that.
And again, that contributes to where I put them, right?
Yes.
This isn't about whether or not I think LSU is going to be good offensively. They will be. It's about how bad I think that defense is and how much that offense rescued that defense last year that I don't think that they'll be able to do.
Rescued is a great word because that's exactly what they did. They rescued them.
Yeah. So if you're not going to be able to have the rescue this year, I don't know how you finish it in 9 wins this season. Next up, I have Arkansas. Arkansas, I actually think will be better than a lot of people assume that they will be this season. I am more optimistic about Arkansas than I think most people are. How good they will be is still yet to be seen. I believe T. Will is a good defensive coordinator. I think that they have some potential to be better up front this season, particularly on the offensive line. And so I think that they'll be better than a lot of people think, but I just don't know that it comes together this year for them to be able to get more than 7 wins.
Yeah.
South Carolina, I put in a place of still trying to, South Carolina offensively last year was very Jekyll and Hyde. And I think that they got worse this year, honestly, offensively. As much as I am not a fan of Spencer Rattler, and I think that he was a little overhyped um, every year for whatever reason. I think the arm talent was always there. I just don't think he put it together on the field consistently enough. He played well last season, right? And I don't know. I think Lenora Sellers is good. I just don't know how good he can be immediately for them. And I don't believe that offensive line got better. So and South Carolina may be a mess defensively again. So we'll see. But for right now, seeing is believing for me for South Carolina. That's why I have them there. Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby, I think phenomenal offensive coach. Don't think he's had enough time to get his folks in there to be able to run that offense the way that he wants to. And I don't know how that team gets better defensively. Uh, when you bring in offensive minded head coaches, the defensive coordinator hire becomes that much more of an imperative.
Right.
And we'll see. We'll see with Mississippi State whether or not they get the defense figured out. That defense was good at times and then really bad at other times last season. I don't know that they've gotten that figured out in one off season with the change of administration like that. But we will see where that lands. But Mississippi State there at 14. Florida, Vandy at the bottom here.
Vandy needs no explanation. They got 2 first place votes, so somebody's
someone felt like they would be good, whatever. But I just think Florida's schedule is absolutely brutal, and I don't know how they survive that gauntlet with a good outcome. And Vanderbilt, I think, is just that they've been where they are, and I don't think this offseason they got drastically better. I think that they have an opportunity to get some dubs out there, but yeah, I just don't know how many of those are going to come in SEC play.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's Florida. Like I said, your ranking when I saw it, I was like, this is reflective of their schedule. It is probably the hardest schedule in the history of college football. 11 Power 5 teams. Florida's schedule is absolutely murderer's row. I think that Billy Napier would had a 7-win season would be a phenomenal job with that schedule and the team that he has. So I agree with you there. I mean, like, I have them finishing a little higher, or we'll jump to my ballot here. But like, any final thoughts on your ranking?
Yeah, I just think that this is tough, right? Because I don't live in the world of these other schools, these programs as heavily as I'm in Auburn's, right? And so mine may reflect a little bit on what I feel from Auburn internally as to where I have them landing here and knowing less about these other teams. But again, I didn't just decide on my own. I did have a lot of conversations with a lot of people during media days that cover these teams a lot more closely than I do. And I took what they were saying about what they didn't like about their teams, mixed that in with some assumptions that I already had to be able to try to put this together. And in 3 weeks, I could feel completely differently about this, right? But
it's a preseason ballot.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, before the season starts, I could still change my mind on some of these things. But this was what I thought when the question was asked of me at the time, and I stand behind those choices that I made, and I think I can reason my way into all of those choices fairly easily.
All right.
I definitely want to take time to shout out a show sponsor, Joy Mode. Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our thoughts get in the way of our performance, or maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. That's where the guys at Joy Mode comes in. No longer have to pick up sketchy gas station pills or prescribed drugs with a long list of side effects. Joy Mode Sexual Performance Booster is an all-natural and science-backed solution to increase blood flow, firmness, stamina, and performance. Also helps you with your cardiovascular as well. Good product, good folks. Go to usejoymode.com. I'll list that here. Go to usejoymode.com and use code rapport to get 20% off at your checkout. Special shouts out to them for also being a sponsor of the War Rapport.
For full episodes, make sure you head over to the War Rapport's YouTube channel and check out the Weekend Tailgate. Every Sunday, we're going live. Join us on the live stream at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until the next time, War Eagle.